Alrighty, welcome to the how-to video on setting up a field map for data collection within Arc Pro. Using this method, we shouldn't have to go to the website to change any settings, enable any offline modes, online modes, whatever. So this is a pretty simple example just for getting you going from Arc Pro to collecting data with your phone with field maps. I've set up a project already to make this map. You can have your own working project. Doesn't matter. What's important is that we have the new map set up. And also check your login. Make sure that the account that you're logged into, as you see this is my personal one up here, make sure that's the one that you're going to be using for field maps. If it's a company login, you need to use the company one. All right, so let's make a new map that'll be just for field maps. It's good to kind of keep a clean slate going whenever you're pushing this onto the web portal. So I never like to leave it named map. I'm going to give it a unique name, field map, UPDK. The Upper Duck Huck 12 is our example watershed today. One of the settings we need to change right off the bat is allow assignment of unique numeric IDs for sharing web layers. Basically lets the web hosting layer or something on their back end handle a bunch of different features and not get the IDs confused. I like to set my base map to aerial imagery. You can choose any of the default base maps and it'll use it in field maps. All right, so what are we going to put on here today? I have two polygon features that were already made. I assume you would already have your features clipped or in a shapefile or GDB for your project. So, and I very quickly there changed the coordinate system for the map to WGS84. It's what the web takes it in. All right, so up here is the Upper Duck shape. It should be the watershed boundaries for the Upper Duck Huck 12 in North Alabama. I'm going to change the symbology to something a little more easy to see real quick. Keep the symbology simple for these web maps. If you start doing some complex stuff, it doesn't always parse over, so it's good to just keep the symbology as simple as you can. The other feature we had to add here was the NWI wetlands. I had clipped these already. I think most of you know where to grab those at this point, or any other polygon or line features you need for your project. So yeah, here's all the wetland features that were within the Upper Duck. So we will include them on our field maps just for reference. And I'm going to go here and give a little bit of transparency to them so whoever's opening the map can see through it a bit. You can change that later on arcgis.com. I like to do it just right off the bat in here. And let's change it to a purple, a little easier to see. Personal preference, when you set these up for yourself, you can use whatever colors you like. When setting them up for a team, maybe think more about what looks good for a wider group of people. All right, so we have our map, we have our features. Now we want to add some features for collection, which for this video will just be points. You can do lines or polygons, but we're just going to add point features. All right, so go ahead and make a new feature layer, and you can do it in your GDB. You can have it already existing. I would make a new one for collection, actually. I wouldn't use an existing one. You can, but it's good to just kind of start fresh. Give it a unique name. I give it field points, Upper Duck, January 24th. Two of the default fields I add for point collection are just an ID field and a comment field. You can add as many of these as you want for your purposes. There's some more complex dictionaries to set up as well. All right, so we've set up our point collection feature. Now let's add GPS metadata fields to it. This is a tool, search for add GPS metadata. It's pretty simple. Just select your points, run it. And when you go and look at your point file, you can see that all these other fields have been added here, which will give information on the GPS unit you're using. It doesn't matter what it is, it'll collect it and populate those. All right, now I'm going to go and change the symbology on my field collection points to something a little easier to see. Just be mindful of that when you are setting it up here, because it's going to push it right onto the field maps. And if you want to change it, you're going to have to go to arconline.com. I dropped an example point just from the desktop there, just make sure everything's working. ID test point, comment. So just to put a point down on the map so I can make sure when I double check this on field maps that they're all populated. All right, we got our watershed boundary, we got our NWI, and we got our field points feature for collection. So we are ready to push all this onto the World Wide Web. All right, so you want to go to Share, and under Share As, there's a web map. All right, here's where it's important to make sure you're logged in to the login ID you're going to be using for field maps. It'll give the name of this as the name you gave the map when you named it. I'm going to add January 24th on there just to separate it out a little bit. And you want to change your configuration of the map to editable because we do have a point feature in there we want to edit. Go ahead and give the location a unique folder name so it'll keep all of these features in a folder in ArcOnline. I'm going to name it Upper Duck Field Map January 24th here. All right, so we go to configuration, and our three features, the point, the boundary, and the wetlands, have all been aggregated under one web feature layer. We want to split out those field points so they're editable, but the other two, the boundary and the wetlands, are not, and they just stay static. So we need to split this web feature layer. They're all grouped into two web feature layers. So choose Upper Duck Shape right there, which is like right below field points. Click Split. And that should put them in different WFLs. So you got WFL1 there with the field points. Going to look at the properties. Go to the configuration. As you can see, we have the ability to add, delete, and update. Now make sure to check sync and export data because this is what turns the map on for offline mode without having to go to the website. All right, I like to analyze the stuff to make sure nothing has an issue with it. You can run it or not. It'll catch it in the end when we're trying to push it anyway. So look at properties for the other web feature layer, the one that we don't want to change or add to. That's the boundary and the wetlands. So uncheck add and delete, but make sure to recheck enable sync and export data. Analyze, shouldn't be any issues with this web layer. It's pretty simple. All right, so we have configured our features for our field map. All right, got our name in there. Everything looks good. Let's run an analyze. And this is a pretty simple map, so no issues were caught. If things do come up, reach out to me. I had to address a couple of them. And the most common one is this right here that allow assignment of unique numeric IDs. So make sure to have that checked on your map. All right, with no errors, we are ready to push this onto ArcOnline. So click Share. And the Arc Pro will push this onto the web server. And it usually only takes a couple minutes at most for these simple ones. If you had a lot of features or there was just a lot of data that had to be put onto your field map, hundreds and hundreds of megabytes plus, it might take a minute depending on your internet speed and their server's ability to kind of process it and create these web feature layers. It usually does not take too long though, and I've had very few failures for uploading when it's been simple maps. All right, if you go to your iOS or Droid device and open up Field Maps, make sure you're logged into that same account. You should see the map sitting right there. So let's click on it, and of course it's going to zoom to my current GPS location, which is definitely not in the Upper Duck, Huck 12. And this is streaming now off of just my cell. So just showing you that it'll work off a cell and not just Wi-Fi. All right, over to the Upper Duck we go. Zoom in, let it load a little bit. And boom, there we are. We got our example point, got our NWIs. Looking good, looking good. And let's test the point collection feature. It's going to try and collect one again here, not at the Upper Duck. By default, it sometimes goes to like 5 points to average, or the GPS averaging is not even on. So change it to 20 points. You can do 10 if you're in a pinch, but it's good to have 20 points. And whenever you're collecting points, just fill out the ID and comment field and proceed as usual.